you.
Perfect. So Christopher Chen transforms data professionals into star speakers. While working in the data industry, Chris saw extremely talented colleagues struggle to get the opportunities they deserved because they couldn't present, tell a story, and speak with confidence. He decided to launch Hidden Speaker, a training consultancy that offers highly specialized communication and data storytelling workshops for companies around the world. As a speaker, coach, and trainer, his work has helped thousands demonstrate leadership through communication, and he is passionate about equipping developers, analysts, managers, and executives with the tools and confidence to give inspirational presentations. We are very excited to have Christopher Chin here with us, and we know that it will be very valuable for all of us business analysts where data communication is super important. So without further ado, I will hand over to you, Christopher. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Randy, for the very kind introduction. And I think I got the chat working. If everyone could try out putting in your name,
Awesome.
where you're calling in from, let's see if that works. I see something from Patrick right now, but the AI assistant for Patrick. So, okay, I see Helga, thank you, from Canada. Fantastic. All right, this is working. Yeah, would love to see where everyone is calling in from. I know we have people from all around the world today. Pittsburgh, Canada. Oh, wow. Very cool. Thank you, Dagmar. Made in Germany, dialing from Zaragoza, Spain. Very cool. Miami, Southampton. Wow. We have a very global audience. Richmond, Virginia, too. This is awesome. I want to share a little bit more with you about why this topic today is so important to me. As Randy mentioned, I teach communication, but contrary to what you might believe about me, I am not an extroverted person. For all of my life, I've been a lot more shy, quiet, and introverted than I would like, and that held back my career. I remember one job I had. There was one business meeting I was in, important stakeholders were in the room, and they wanted to hear my opinion, but I was too nervous about my speaking to say anything. I had a teammate, same level as me, who talked the entire time. And guess who got the promotion at the end of the year? It wasn't me. At the end of that meeting, one of the stakeholders came up to me and said, Chris, you're as quiet as a mouse, but that guy, my teammate, he's as loud as a firecracker. Seems like he really cares about this data stuff, but we don't really know what you're thinking. And that line stuck with me for years because I figured, I believe I'm doing really important work in this organization. But if no one understands what I'm doing, if I can't communicate its impact, I will limit my own career potential and I will limit my impact on the organization. I decided to start my company to inspire and empower professionals like ourselves, data professionals, to communicate the great value of our work. For that purpose, this workshop today is intended to be interactive, supportive, communal. I don't want this to be me just lecturing at you, but us to all learn these important skills together. So for that reason, I want to start off with an important question for you. What do you think is the number one key to presentation success? Is it confidence? Is it emotion? Or is it argument? Please do put in the chat what you think the answer is. Confidence, emotion, or argument? Thank you, Valerie. Valerie's vote is for confidence. Oh, I'm seeing a lot of confidence. I saw one argument, though. Very nice. Okay. Everybody is really latching on to confidence. This is very cool to see. Would one of you who put confidence share why you think that is the most important key? Wow, I can literally count 9 confidences, 1 argument. All of them. That's a cool one. Thank you, Lena. Valerie says, if you are confident in what you are speaking about, it shows through. Absolutely. Adonis says, fake it till you make it. My hope is that after the workshop today, you won't have to fake it, but you actually will feel confident. Very interesting. Well, I'm not going to reveal just quite yet what the key is, but know that by the end of this session today, you will know what the key to presentation success is. Thank you, Patrick, as well. When you are confident, you are sure you know what you, then the job is yours. Yes. Something we'll touch on today is why communication is so important to your job and how you can use it to enhance your career success. The game plan for today is 3 important modules regarding communication. We're going to build up our skill with this, starting with sentences, the words we choose to use during our presentations. Then we'll progress to slides. How do we arrange those words into visuals, charts, and maybe by the end, how do we put those slides into a story? A big hot topic in data is data storytelling. How do we take all of the analyses we've done and turn that into something emotionally impactful that can drive action in our organization? That's the game plan today. So I want to start with sentences. Let's start at the very ground level, develop a foundation. What are the words we should choose to use during our presentation? So let's make this fun. I'm going to show you 2 slides. I want you to tell me which one you think is better in terms of their sentences. So here's slide option A regarding human and machine intelligence. I'll give you a moment to just read through all the text here. And then I'll move forward to option B. Here's option B. Similar content, different layout. Please do put in the chat what you think is the better option A or option B. Again, this is A, this is B. All right, we're getting a lot of B. I saw one person very enthusiastic over here, Helga, put a B probably in bolder caps. Excellent. Okay, everybody is saying B. This is interesting. Can someone put why you think B is the better one? We're getting a very strong consensus. Okay, the KISS principle. Easy read, less to read, quicker understanding. Excellent, excellent. Let's talk about this. The most important question to ask when you're creating sentences for your presentations, for your reports is, who is the audience you're speaking to? That's the first question. Not necessarily, is this a good slide or a bad slide, but who is it we're speaking to? This slide, option A, gives a lot of material that's a bit more technical. Machine scores, complementary information, high completeness score. This is a lot of technical jargon. Now, it could be presented better. KISS principle, keep it short and simple is how I like to fill out that acronym. Keeps the audience awake, less wordy. But if you wanted to speak to a technical audience, it might be appropriate to use these technical terms. However, if you're speaking to more general audiences, if you want to really keep their attention, it helps to have visuals like this, less to parse through, and easier to see what the message actually is. So the number one thing I want you to remember is, yes, layout is important, but even more important is determining who is your audience and what language on your slide would be good for them. Here's another fun exercise. This is a very busy slide. Most of you, according to the responses so far, would hate this. I want you to think about, how would you fix this slide? And let's consider one type of audience. Let's say this is the CEO of our company. They just want a broad overview of the different projects we've done. It seems like there's a multinational food and beverage company project, a logistics project, a cosmetics project. How would you fix this slide to do that? Please do put your thoughts in the chat. Enrico says, measure what matters. This is good. And I think what you're alluding to is, we don't need all the numbers here, but maybe we can just bubble up some high-level information. Good. Any other thoughts? How would you fix this slide in terms of the words, the sentences, the layout? Well, I like it, Helga. Show the outcomes first, graphs and charts. Fantastic. As you saw from the previous example, option A and B, making it more visual is a lot easier to read. I highly doubt anyone here likes looking at slides like this, despite the fact they're all over the place in our businesses. Tabular form is another good one. Thank you. Just a way to make this a little more digestible. I want to take Helga's recommendation. For a CEO, the most important thing they need to know is perhaps what was the outcome of each of these projects? Were they successful? Were they failures? With that high-level view bubbled up, we don't need all the other information. So let's just focus on the outcome. Let's just take everything else out. Still looks pretty bad, but maybe we can reduce some of the text. Instead of reading it out line by line, let's just put the words that are most important. Here, I've cut out some unnecessary text. So for each project, we can see what is the outcome. Multinational, it's delivered faster growth. Cosmetic, delivered something with 90% accuracy. The logistics one scaled the production environment. Great comments are also coming in from Simona. Use content for more slides with visual content too. If the slides show the outcome, excellent. The takeaway I want here from the comments, you all are doing a fantastic job of already predicting what I'm going to say, is the slides should complement what you say as the presenter. They should not be repeating it. Otherwise, why am I here speaking to all of you if I'm just going to read off the slides? So let's do that. And let's go one step further. Let's make this a little more attractive to read. Maybe some icons to go with each project that we're working on. A little cleaner of a layout instead of quadrants. This could be a more effective slide. But something to consider is, what if we had a different audience? What if it was not the CEO, but it was, let's say, a senior manager of the company, and they don't just want the outcome, but they want to know some more detail about each of these projects. Given that, how would you change this slide to better reflect that need? Any thoughts? Please do put them in the comments. Thank you. Helga dropped the 3 words outcome. Yes, please remove any repetitive words. We want slides to be as clean and easy to read as possible. Helga also says approach first. That's good. We don't need everything. Let's just find the elements that are most important. Any other thoughts? How to improve this slide so a manager who wants a little bit more detail could benefit? Enrico says, how are these related to each other? That's an even better question. Why are we presenting this in the first place? That would be an important thing to put on a slide. Why is this important? That's something we're going to get to a little later too in the session today. Ronnie says, add some hyperlink to details. Good. A takeaway I want you to remember is, if you ever feel compelled to put this much information on a slide, think about putting it in an appendix instead. You can even do hyperlinks, so people on this slide could click to see the stuff in the appendix. Then while you're presenting, it's very clean, easy to read. For people who want more information later, they can check it out later. Thank you, Patrick Pictures. Let's do all of these things. Let's say we want to talk about each of these projects, but let's do it in a more effective way. Why don't we consider, instead of talking about all of these in the same place, let's break it apart, make each one individually easy to read. So let's just focus on this one project, for example. Let's talk in one line each, the challenge, the approach, and the outcome, adding those pictures as was recommended. We could enhance this with some charts, perhaps, a slide separately for challenge, approach, and outcome. Let's repeat this for each of the different projects. So we have the cosmetic slide, similar format, challenge, approach, and outcome. And finally, the logistics one. You can see here, as we've gone through this exercise, one of the most important things to remember for slide design, for determining what words to put on the slide, is please keep it simple to read. All of you would be in protest if this slide I presented to you was full of text and I was trying to teach you with that kind of slide. It's just not good presentation experience, but something a little more simple, similar to this, would be more ideal. I want you to keep a few questions in mind when you need to prepare a presentation. First, who is the audience you're speaking to? What is their level of technical proficiency? Would they want to see some technical terms and jargon? Or would they prefer more general terms anyone could understand? Number two, think about what information have they seen in the past about this topic you're presenting on. If they've never seen it before, you need to give more context. If they have, you can just give them a brief reminder. And finally, what action does your audience need to take based on this information? For the CEO we talked about, they need to know about the outcome because they need to decide, do I need to sign off, give more money to these proposals? Maybe. For the manager, they need to manage the project, so they need more detail. Understanding who your audience is and what they need is how you develop better material for your presentations. And this was something that happened with one of my early clients who I trained as part of my organization. They were a PhD researcher in molecular oncology. And when they came to me, they said, hey, Chris, truth be told, I don't think presentation is that important. They spent most of their time in the lab doing research, writing papers, and they said, I don't know about this, but I have an important interview coming up for a data science position, and I need to give a presentation. Maybe I'll give a session with you a try. So we worked together, and one of the first things that I told him to do was to consider his audience. His slides were full of this technical jargon about biology stuff and statistical stuff. And I said, wait a minute there. Who is your audience? Would they understand these terms? And he said, well, probably not, given the roles of the panelists. They probably wouldn't understand these. And I said, because of that, please take those words out. Replace them with other words or define the complicated terms at least once up front. That improved the presentation tremendously. So what to remember regarding sentences? Please do consider your audience's needs. And as Helga put in the comments, the average reading level is grade 8 for Canada, US, and Australia. Always keep that in mind when writing. Please keep it as simple as possible. We don't want to confuse our audience. We want them to just get the message as quickly as they can. Any questions up to this point, please do put in the chat or the Q&A section any questions that you have about sentences, considering your audience, what to put on slides. Happy to answer them at this time. Thank you, Dagmar. I see your points in the Q&A. We should also know what we expect from the audience. Decide, discuss, exactly. If you ever have to host a meeting or you're ever invited to a meeting and there's no agenda, there must be an agenda. Determine what people need to get from this meeting. Otherwise, it's going to be one of those cases where we say, that could have been an email. There's no point. So ask, do we need to discuss something together to reach consensus? Am I just informing you about a new topic? Enrico asks, intensive communication to consider also informed decision. Exactly. We've all been in meetings that we believe were unnecessary. I've been in meetings that were just pure status updates. I could have read it in some document. Those to me are pointless meetings. The point of a meeting is to get everyone together so we can discuss topics and brainstorm and come up with something new and innovative. Ideally, the agenda of the meeting will be shared in advance so you can come prepared with good talking points or know who's coming and anticipate good things you can talk to them about. Valerie says, often slides are provided afterwards, so people tend to put it all on a slide. Yes, I like your idea about an appendix. This is the compromise you can have. I know I've been in organizations where it's very documentation report heavy. Every slide deck is emailed afterwards. But if you present a slide deck that looks like a report, no one is going to like being there. They're going to tune out, be on their phone, especially if we're all virtual. Everybody can hide the fact they're doing that. No one wants to be there. If you make your slides clean and simple when you present, but have an extensive appendix, that's how you have the best of both worlds. Right. Any other questions on sentences? All right, there'll be other opportunities for questions, so I will move forward. The next section is diving a little deeper into slides. We talked about the words to put on the slides, understanding what our audience needs, keeping it simple, a good, simple reading level as well. Now let's talk about how to make the slides visually captivating and easy to understand. Here's another bad slide talking about this company 3 Circle and what it is, informing us. Please do put in the chat. How would you recommend fixing this slide given everything we've talked about so far? And something I want you to consider as you're thinking about how to revise this is, what is the point of this slide? Enrico says, value proposition highlighted with bold fonts at the top. I love it. If you make the title of your slide clear, everything else below it is immediately clear. Oh, Valerie's comment is very cool. Pictures of personas with a bit of info about why that persona would use this company service. That's a really cool one. The reason why data, text like this, numbers, can be so off-putting for general audiences is it's so cold and abstract and scientific and objective and nobody really cares. But if you can make it human, you can put some pictures of people, say this is a person who could use our service. This is a person who has used the service for a long time. This is a person with these needs. Then we get interested because people care about people. That's great. Simona describing this startup for multiple stakeholders. Excellent. Excellent. Remove or move from the perspective of, yes, there's a lot of words here that can be removed. Let's consider whether any of this is necessary to begin with. What if I just put your attention right here? The whole point of this slide is perhaps just this last sentence. There's all this extra noise above about this being a startup, a mobile application, finding friends, navigating a new city. But maybe the whole point and message of this slide is, this is what 3Circle is all about. This is what our app is all about. And maybe I can make that visually enticing, a little more so. These are the pillars that make us who we are as a startup. This is our product: friend finder, city map, and social game. Visually, I understand what this means. And then I, as the presenter, or the person pitching this product, can then explain what each of those means in turn. I could even make it this way. You can see here, it's all these three elements just arranged in a different way, depending on your creative license, or even this way, a little more friendly. And we can take the recommendation before, maybe break this out into personas after this. Say, who can benefit from each of these features? All right, let's do another fun example. Here's another horrible slide we usually see in business. How would you recommend fixing this slide? Please do put your thoughts in the comments. And while you're doing that, thank you, Dagmar, for your comment in the Q&A. You can also use animation and add more information little by little. That is fantastic. The gradual reveal technique is one I highly recommend. Rather than all of this in one place, maybe we can just slowly animate in lesson 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then it's not so overwhelming all at once. Besides that, any other thoughts on how to fix this slide? If I weren't just animating things in to improve the look, how would you fix this? Valerie says just the first sentence for each. That's great. Building off of our first module, which was, you don't need to put so many words on a slide, just the essential ones, because you are still there to fill in the rest of the details. Excellent. Simona adds only one concept lesson learned for each slide. That's another great alternative. Let's see how that looks. Instead of showing everything here, what if I did this? Just one slide for the main idea, and then one slide for each lesson with a short one-liner about what it's about. Then I can complement that with details when I speak. Lesson 1, 2, etc. This is a lot less overwhelming than the original. And this is what I highly encourage we all do in our businesses so that we're not so tired and upset and frustrated whenever we go to meetings. If we can make the slides look better, that'll make for a better experience. This is the last example for this section, and this is my favorite one. This is, of all the examples I've given, my favorite because it's one of the worst I've seen. Number of products sold in 2020, all this detail about this baking company we're in, ice cream and cakes we're selling. This is how much sold in January versus December. Huge table about everything. How would you recommend we fix this slide? Please do put your thoughts in the comments. And yes, great point, Cheryl. Spell out, don't use contractions. Excellent, excellent ad. Yes, use a chart. There are no totals. Visuals would make this so much better. Just imagine a nice chart showing the number of products sold in 2020 for different categories, so I can be visually enticed too. Some color here, it's all in black and white. A bar plot, pictures of ice cream and cakes. That would be nice. That would be nice to see. Key takeaway as the title is another good one. Helga also says there are no totals, forcing you to do the math. Never, never, ever, ever make people do math in their head when they see data. It just is, that shuts everybody down. Ooh, a lot of great thoughts around what kind of chart we could put here. I'm going to go with one that we haven't yet mentioned. Why don't we consider something like this? Could be a bar plot too. If we were focused on comparing months precisely, I could see a heat map being beneficial if we perhaps wanted to focus in on particular areas of this table. Let's consider, for the purposes of this session, a line graph. If the purpose of our visual is to show trends over time and perhaps highlight something going on over here towards the end, October to December, this is where a line chart can come in handy. And you notice immediately it's easy for you to see, understand, and see something you didn't see before. In this table, I don't see anything as a problem. But here, I see there might be a big problem for brownies, the blue line, especially towards the end of the year. But we can do better. You all gave excellent comments for improvement that I'm going to now implement. What if I made a better title? Instead of number of products sold in 2020, which is just so boring and typical in business, why not tell me what you want me to understand, what you want me to take away? Ice cream and cakes increased, the orange and gray lines, but sharp decline in brownies since October. That's the important part here. And what if I went on and removed those grid lines, just highlighting the most important data points? So let's do that again. Grid lines, axis, removed. I just focus on the most important points. Doing this may not always be the best choice. If you want people to really look at every single data point and see the big picture, this could be fine. But if you're telling a story and you want people to pay attention to very precise elements, consider just putting labels by a few select points. Now my attention goes immediately to the beginning and then where we end up, especially for brownies where this line is in bold. Now this change is even more drastic, so I'm going to walk you through it. This was before. You see the legend at the bottom, brownies, ice cream, and cakes. Notice as you're trying to read this chart, your eye is pinballing from the blue line. Okay, what does that mean? Oh, it's brownies. Then the orange line, what does that mean? Oh, it's ice cream. And then the gray line, I guess that's cakes. That pinballing of your eye up and down the page is uncomfortable. Why not just make it extremely direct? The blue line is brownies, the orange line is ice cream, and the gray line is cakes. No question and no confusion. And that change is my favorite, because look at what happened before. We have a different color for every line. Nothing feels more important than the other. But if I take away all the color, and I just have one red splotch, your eye is immediately drawn right there as the sharp decline in brownies since October. That is the most important section. By graying out everything by default in your visualizations, that becomes background material. And then you can choose one bold, bright color for people to pay attention to. Here's the original. Look at how much drastic of an improvement this is. Drawing your eye where it matters most with a clear title. To end this section, I want to share some more about the client I mentioned before, who was preparing for that data science interview. After fixing the words on his slides, we then turned to the slides themselves. And he, in his initial draft, showed me a slide very much like this. For some reason, our brains work such that we want to dump information in a slide so we can just read it. It's easy for us. We forget sometimes that it's not so easy for our audience if it's presented in this way. So I told him, how would you present this slide to your data science committee panel? He said, oh, well, I probably would just read each bullet point. And I said that nobody wants to see that. I showed him what that felt like, and he was like, oh yeah, I don't want to do that. So we fixed his slides to be a lot more visually captivating, simple, easy to read, using visuals, charts like the one I showed you, where color is used more purposefully. I don't have everything at the default setting in my tool. Excel will give you blue, orange, and gray, but maybe I can use the color to draw the eye. Maybe I can have a title that's a bit more explanatory than just describing what's going on. With all these small details, they do add up to make for a better presentation experience. Any questions at this point on slides? Great point, Valerie. Yes. Focusing the eye is the most important point. For data visualization, I always recommend 2 steps to take when you're trying to create a new chart. One is, what is the point of your visual? If you're just showing things, that doesn't really mean anything to people. But if you know what you're trying to say, that will inform what chart type you choose and then how you visualize the information. So first, figure out your point, make that the title, and then make sure that point is clear in the visual by using all the tricks I showed you, graying out things that aren't as important, highlighting things in a bold, bright color so you can draw the eye. You can even box that so you can draw the eye even quicker. Consider those things when building your visualizations. Tamara says, agreed, never thought about a monochromatic chart with one section highlighted. Yes. What often happens in our tools is we fall on the defaults because it's easier. But by paying attention to these little things, it can really make a difference. Any questions? Any of this material on slides? And I would add, as you put in some questions, I'll go over some of the charts that you threw out before. A bar plot was mentioned. I would use the bar plot if the purpose of my visual is to compare different categories, because you can imagine the bars, you can quickly compare the lengths of bars to each other. That's what bars are great for. I would do a line chart if the purpose is to highlight trends, shapes, patterns. That's what lines are great for. Histogram is good for showing those distributions, might be a little more difficult for non-technical audiences to understand, especially things like box and whisker plots too. So that's something to be careful of. Heat maps, fantastic for a nice big picture overview. You can imagine a map, and I can highlight with color the areas that have, let's say, the most IIBA members. Then you can quickly see geographically what the geographical trends are. So heat maps are good for that big picture overview, but they fall short if you want precision, and that's where bar plots come in handy. All right, if there are no questions, we'll continue to move forward to my favorite part of all, which is storytelling. This slide here is another bad slide. We've seen a lot in our presentation so far, but this one, I want to talk about something different. I don't want to talk about the layout. We've talked about that. We know this could be improved. I don't want to talk about the words, but I want you to think, if this was the only slide I ever presented to you about this information, what is missing here for me to understand the full picture? So take some time to read through this. I know it's a lot of text, poor design, but take some time to read through this and tell me, if you were a boss, if you were a manager, what extra information would you need to know to have this information be meaningful for you? Yes, perfect, Valerie. Why is this information important to me as the audience? First, good question. Money, Enrico says. Any other thoughts? What else am I missing here for this to be important for me? What could I add? Well, that's good. What, why, and how? A good preview of what we'll be talking about in this section. Executive summary. Great. How does it contribute to the business goals? Is it better or worse? Fantastic. Fantastic. You're all predicting so many things that I'm going to say, and I love that. I want to give you an example of what a story really is. This term data storytelling is thrown out so often in our space, but never really defined. I want to show you what the difference is between a story, as in fiction, versus a story in business. How can we take these storytelling principles and translate them to the business domain where you might not think they belong? For example, if I were to tell you a quote unquote story, yesterday I went to the grocery store, I bought some eggplants, I went home, I sauteed the eggplants, I had some dinner. That was the end of my day. Not really a story, right? It's anecdotal. It's talking about my life. It could be fictional or not, but it's not really interesting, is it? Not really interesting. Because what a story is, truly at its core, every story you like in fiction, movies, books, needs to start in one place. This is where we are. It needs to take me somewhere different. It needs to take me on a journey of transformation from where we are to where we want to be. If you think about Star Wars, for example, for all those Star Wars fans out there, in the original movies, the story is about how a young farm boy is originally in one place, poor, farming for moisture on a desert planet, I believe. He wants adventure. He yearns for something more meaningful in his life. He goes on an adventure of learning, discovery, transformation. He becomes a hero. And at the end, he gets where he wants to be, which is now he's a hero. He becomes a warrior. He fights the evil empire. You can think about Harry Potter. He starts the beginning, an orphan, abused by his aunt and uncle. He yearns for something more. He goes on a journey of transformation, discovery, going through challenges and obstacles, and then he gets where he wants to be. By the end of the first book, by the end of the whole series, he becomes a full-blown wizard. Every story is a journey of transformation. So in business, you don't need to tell a quote-unquote story by saying, oh, I did this and I did this. You can just use the narrative structure of stories, transformation, to make the information more captivating. So here, you raised fantastic points. What, why, and how was what someone said. Those are the ingredients of a good story. I need to start in one place, and you need to tell me, how do I get from point A to point B, from what's undesirable to what's desirable? So let's talk about how to fix this slide, how to make this into a story. First of all, a few questions come up. I read this first bullet point. 30% of these new products are on a same-day delivery timeline. Okay, well, the question is, why does that matter? Someone put money. I don't know how this impacts me financially. Another question is, from 2020 to 2022, 3Circle saw year-over-year growth for same-day deliveries. How much? Why does that matter? One of the best skills we can cultivate as data professionals is asking why, as many times as needed to address our stakeholders' needs. Just keep asking why. Why is really the central ingredient of storytelling. We can start this story regarding this data with a big idea. Every story needs a theme. This is the lesson from a movie. This is the moral of a fable. This is the takeaway from a book. What is the big idea we all need to remember after we've gone through this journey of transformation together? So here, the big idea could be, we need to enable same-day delivery for more products to increase customer satisfaction. So this addresses something of what many of you mentioned, which is, what is the impact of this? What is going on? Why is this important? We want more money. We want more products because we want customers to be happier, so they buy more products. Okay, simple big idea. We talk about where we are and where we want to be. because the whole purpose of a story is to dictate to me, how do I accomplish that journey? So the reality now is sad. Low capacity for same-day deliveries, 47% of shopping carts abandoned due to long shipping time. We want to get to the goals. 1 out of 3 products have capacity for same-day delivery. Reduce the rate of shopping cart abandonment to 20% or less. Where we are to where we want to be. And this whole story is going to be about how we get there. Okay. This reviews some of the data that we've talked about. 1,000 new products, 30% same-day delivery. We could enhance this slide even better with visuals, charts, graphs. But here we can see we're almost at where we want, or at least we've accomplished some of our goals. Check mark and check mark. This is how we explain the how. This was mentioned before, the what, why, and the how. How did we accomplish this amazing transformation? Well, data played a role. Originally, we had all these bad things on the left-hand side. Inability to report, lack specific calls to action, fails to speak the language of the business. This is what held us back before. This was the bad before, where Luke in Star Wars, the main character, is stuck on the desert planet. Harry Potter in the beginning is stuck with his abusive aunt and uncle, the bad before. Now, we're going to the ideal after the transformation. With data, leveraging that within our company, we can now measure progress against our goals, establish these goals, determine statistical significance. All these benefits, we're going from where we are to where we want to be. We talk about now, actually, what can people do? So what is now is, again, the sad state we're in right now. No analytics for all these things that are important. But what can be is if we use data better in our company, we can improve manufacturing speed, transit speed, facilities are sufficiently staffed. Look at that transformation, the benefits and impact of that. The call to action then, the very last slide would be, we need to enhance our data and analytics initiatives to increase this same-day delivery and the satisfaction of our customers. So this is a call to action for the managers, the executives in our company to do more data stuff, the stuff that we do, because look at how much that can impact our organization. For stories, I want you to remember these 3 ingredients, which were very well put by one of the participants before, what, why, and how, I believe. You can also rephrase it this way: the what, so what, the now what. So what's going on? Where are we right now? What's the bad state we're in? Why is that important? How do we accomplish this journey of transformation? And at the end, once you've gotten to the destination, the goal you've established, to tell people exactly what they need to do to get there. So it's the what, what's going on, the so what, why does this all matter? What's my big idea? Finally, now what exactly do I need to do? That's all a story is. So in business, you don't need to tell a story by talking about your weekend or what you did in a grocery store or the last time you went to an amusement park. All you need to do is take the narrative structure of stories that makes them so engaging for us and transplant them into your business presentations. Any questions up to this point on storytelling? Thank you, Enrico. Yes, the main character of Star Wars starts on Tatooine, a desert planet where he was farming for moisture. And yes, great point as well before about an executive summary. What I highly recommend for executive summaries is you outline that story. You outline the what, the so what, and the now what in your executive summary. You can say, here are the key findings I want you to remember. This is why it's important. This is the impact on you financially, about KPIs you care about. And then what do we do? What is the call to action in this presentation? The executive summary should be a 1-page decision document explaining to someone everything in the presentation, and they only need to read the rest if it's relevant for them. But the executive summary should have those 3 key ingredients. Any questions? Any questions? Okay, Enrico says, as storytellers, do we have the creative license to do some hyperbole? My answer to that is, as data professionals, we must be ethical. I often hear in the industry horrible complaints from fellow peers of mine who've been in companies. Their bosses tell them to just massage the data a little bit, just show me the stuff, cherry pick some stuff to make me look good as the boss. That's not good. That's not ethical. That's exaggeration. That might be hyperbole. That's not showing the accurate state of things. As data professionals, we must be ethical in what we choose to say, because data for our stakeholders is the source of truth. If we inflate or over-exaggerate certain claims, data may no longer be trustworthy for them. So we have to be very careful about that. I would say you need to think about how you want your audience to feel. Do you want them to feel frustrated? Do you want them to feel excited about this new proposal you're giving? Do you want them to feel really anxious about the current state of things so they feel inspired to give money to your proposal? You can think about what you want people to feel, but don't distort any data in an excessive way that would lead people or misdirect them. We want to push them in the right direction, thinking about all those things. Any other questions? And this will be the last opportunity for questions before we bring things to a close. Okay, there are no questions. I'll start wrapping this up. The final step for the client I mentioned before, the PhD researcher in molecular oncology, to finish this presentation we were building together, we had by this point fixed the words. No more technical jargon. If you must say some acronym, spell it out at least once at the beginning. Choose words you think your audience will understand and resonate with. We fixed the slides. Good visuals now. Simple, easy to read, KISS principle. Keep it short and simple is how I like to spell it out. Clear visualizations. And finally, we talked about storytelling. This is the part that is often missed in our presentations. Originally, my client had fact, 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 fact. I researched this, I experimented on this, I got this result, I had this observation, this is what I found. What is missing there is, why does this all matter to me? He knows it. He knows exactly why he did all those things, why it matters, why he included them, but I don't. And the thing we often miss when presenting is the connective tissue of why that links all of our facts, all of our data, all of our numbers. Without the why, we're missing the story. We're missing the journey of transformation, why we should even go on this journey of transformation. And at the end, he also was missing the call to action. Without the call to action, the presentation is useless. If people don't change after you do a presentation, if their behavior doesn't alter, if they take no action, the presentation might as well not have been given. The whole purpose of a presentation is to inspire action from people. So I told him, the call to action you want is, you want this job. So you want them to hire you for this position, given all this great expertise you showcase in your presentation. So make sure you have a good call to action at the end. He gave this presentation to the committee, and he said he's never seen people more engaged with this presentation before, because he used all of these principles, from sentences to slides to stories. My call to action for all of you here is, I want you to look at your presentations a different way, not as a way to give information to our audiences. An email can do that for you, but to perhaps tell stories, to perhaps inspire people to do something with this information we've given them. That is our purpose. In this AI-driven era that we're entering, have already entered, AI will automate all these manual tasks we normally do. And the most important skill of all, I believe, will be communication. Our ability to be in those boardrooms with the CEO and say, hey, this is what I think we should do, using storytelling, good communication to persuade them to do that. CEOs will not trust AI to make those high-risk decisions. They will trust people. So our role in this ever-evolving future is to work on these skills. Businesses do not need more data. We have enough of it. In 2024, I read some stat there'll be 120 trillion gigabytes of data this year. We don't need more data. We need better data communication, because if we communicate better, we get those insights, organizations will actually change. Thank you all for joining today. It was a real pleasure to get to speak with all of you. Thank you for being so engaged as well. You pretty much could have given this presentation too, given everything that you know. But thank you. And for anyone interested, the answer to this question is all of them. Because Aristotle, the Greek philosopher, had a rhetorical triangle that goes ethos, pathos, and logos. In order to persuade anyone going forward, be sure that you have all the keys that we talked about today. You need authority, ethos, confidence, so people trust what you're saying. You can establish this by using terms that people understand. You also need pathos or emotion. You can evoke this with the visuals on your slides. People respond a lot more to visual stimuli than text. And argument, the logos, that is also key and something we do very well with our data-driven minds. But to succeed in a presentation, you need all three. So I encourage all of you, for any presentation you do from now on, please do consider to use all three of these elements: sentences, slides, and stories: ethos, pathos, and logos. Thank you all. Please do stay connected. This is a QR code you can scan on your smartphone to connect with me on LinkedIn. I have a free ebook that you can download with even more tips on these topics. And if there are workshops you think would be a good fit for your organization, feel free to also email me here. Be happy to set that up. That's something I love doing as well. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Randy, for hosting me as well.
Thank you, Christopher. This was amazing. And as you can see in the chat, I believe everyone else agrees how awesome of a presentation this was. Thank you so much for coming out and imparting all this into us, because I think it's extremely valuable, will be valuable for us in the workplace.
Yeah, so happy to be here.
Valerie said,
Thank you.
Valerie said, enjoyed the hour. Hardly thought it was an hour. I know, right? It went by super fast. Simona said great points and amazing. And Helga, see, she's saying awesome presentation. So thank you so much. And thank you everyone who's joined and interacted. It was a very engaging watching all of you adding to the conversation and ask different questions and giving your thoughts. So awesome. If you are new to IIBA, visit the IIBA.org website to learn more about the organization. If you haven't joined a chapter, consider joining the South Florida chapter. If you're interested in volunteering, please feel free to reach out to me. My name is Randy Ennis. You can find on LinkedIn. You can email me at president@southflorida.iiba.org. And again, thank you all for joining. This has been great. And if you have any other questions, I guess you can continue to add anything in. But thank you, Christopher. This has been amazing.
Thank you so much,
And
everyone.
more questions.
Oh. Enrico's question is, what is your advice on interpreting data, lying with statistics, with bias? My recommendation is, please do consider the viewpoint of your audience. Think about putting yourself in their shoes. If they were to see a visual, how would they respond? What would go through their mind? Would they perhaps be misled in a certain direction, given their level of technical proficiency, what they've seen before? Make sure that any visual you have has a very, very clear message. We don't want our data to deceive or mislead. We want to make sure that we don't lie with statistics. Everything that we do must be ethical, and we must avoid doing anything that misleads our audience in any bad direction.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining. Check out our website, also southflorida.iiba.org, for our upcoming events. We have an event coming up in October and our annual general meeting coming up in November. So love to have you all join us.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Awesome.